Hello and welcome to This Week on Q. I'm your host, Darek Lambert. Joining us this week is newly elected SGA President Gino Grivetti. Gino is currently a sophomore at QU and was officially sworn into office earlier last week. Gino, thank you so much for joining us on set today. We appreciate you taking some time out of your day.
Oh, it's great to be here, Darek.
We're happy to have you. So could you just tell us a little bit, how it feels to be in that newly elected president spot?
It's a really humbling experience for me. SGA it has a lot of responsibilities to take care of, especially as we are reinventing for this newly upcoming year. And I'm just very grateful that the students here have given me the chance to help move QU forward.
Good, that's good to hear. Q Media actually did a story on you earlier this semester about you raising funds for your grade school, that you were able to do that back in your hometown. How does it feel taking on that president of SGA role while the university you now attend is kind of going through a financial crisis as well?
Right. It's mildly ironic. It seems every school I attend has a financial crisis. But that's not necessarily true. There's a big difference between the two. One is a small school that just needs its roof rebuilt, and the other is dealing with bigger issues. Obviously, the SGA president is not going to be looking at the budget daily, but what we are going to be doing is voicing the students' concerns to the administration so that as they are moving QU through this financial recovery, the needs of the students are expressed.
So do you, you kind of talked about, you won't directly see the budgets, but do you personally have any ideas moving forward with the university to kind of help the fundraising side of things?
In regards to the fundraising side of things, I'm not sure there's much SGA is responsible for. We're more looking at two different areas. One is improving the student experience through events on campus, and the other is improving the student experience through representing their needs. And so when we're dealing with the budget, with both of those things, we do want to be frugal with the money that is allocated to us, but we also want to make sure that we're defending student programming, that it is not going to fall victim because students did not speak up.
Gotcha. And so to go along with that, how are you going to make sure that students are heard, their voices are heard? How do you plan to do that?
Right. So what we're going to do is SGA will now be meeting weekly instead of bi-weekly like we used to be doing. The senators have a lot more responsibility to see to take the pulse of the student body, if you will, and make sure that those needs are known to us. What SGA then does is we either pass resolutions or we otherwise make official statements on happenings on campus and deliver them either to the dean of students or to someone else in the administration who will then be making those decisions. We can't force the school to do anything, but what we can do is tell them what the students want. Additionally, I think it's important to note that the SGA president and vice president, I believe, are both going to be sitting at the QU Board of Directors meetings. And so there are even administration officials who do not go to those. But that is me bringing the needs of the students directly to the board, and that's something very important.
So in that SGA debate that QU Media actually hosted, you talked a lot about traditions and things like that maybe past alumni have talked about, and that was something you specifically talked about in that debate. Do you want to expand a little bit on those traditions being lost, and maybe if you have any plans to bring back certain traditions and things like that?
Right, so with traditions that have kind of fallen by the wayside, I did mention in particular like the root beer kegger, for example. We do want to bring those back if there is sufficient student interest, but it's also about making new traditions here, such as the haunted house, for example, and just having an open attitude towards those things. The other element of our tradition that we really need to be conscious of is our Catholic and Franciscan values, and making sure that those are a lively part of our mission. Every school has a mission, and we want to make sure that the students are aware of ours and can be invited into that life.
Good. So kind of we talked a little bit with Mary Argano when she came down here, and we interviewed her as well. We talked a little bit about the restructuring of SGA. So taking away those clubs and organization roles and having the president, vice president, and then having class representatives and things like that. How are you wanting to implement that? Being it's going to be a change, and how can students specifically reach out to those people to make sure that their voices are going to be heard?
Right. So first of all, let me deal with how can students reach out to those people. You will know your senators. Your senators will be active with you. You'll see them in class. You'll see them around. And those are going to be your point people. Our meetings are all also open to the public, and so you're invited to come to any of those, and those will be at Tuesdays at 9 p.m., which is the same time that they usually were. As far as the restructuring, we're still writing the Constitution, and so we're unsure if we're going to be adding cabinet positions that would be appointed to also ensure that all voices are heard, or how we're going to do that. One idea that I think is important to stress is that we're looking at the idea of having representatives from each of the campuses. I mean North Campus, Blessing Riemann, and the airport, making sure that those specific things that we don't always hear about in Francis Hall are being represented to us. We're also toying with the idea of having all of our meetings broadcast on Facebook Live and taking questions that way. All in all, we want to make sure that the students know that SGA is the place to voice their complaints, that if they have a problem, they can bring it to me, they can email it to me, they can send it on Facebook, however it takes, but get those concerns to us so that we can react to them.
So just a side question with that. So there is like an SGA Facebook page, right?
Yes.
And that's
yes.
how, if people are wanting to get in contact with you, they can do it that way.
They can. And whoever set it up as a person, and then there's also a page. So it's kind of hard to find it, but we'll try to work on that to make it easier to find.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. So coming up, more with Gino on his plans for next year as SGA president. You're watching This Week on Q.
The future of the program is very bright. It's an exciting time on QU campus because we have QU TV. We have a television station where students can experience working as a director, an anchor, a reporter, photographer, doing weather, doing sports. We also have a newspaper where students can report, be photo editors, be executive editors. We've got a lot of opportunity there working on the student newspaper. We also provide students with the opportunity to do magazine articles with heavy research and giving them a little bit more time to expand on articles and do some in-depth investigative work. Moving forward, it's exciting because all of the skills they learn in every avenue will translate into what we have in the future, and web writing and mobile writing and all of our distribution platforms. We have an incredible opportunity to grow the department, to grow the program, and to grow students into excellent journalists.
Welcome back to This Week on Q. We're here with President of SGA Gino Grivetti. So Gino, something to go along with being the president of SGA, obviously that comes with a lot of responsibilities and a lot of communication, especially with the Dean of Students and as well as the Office of Student Engagement. So how are you planning on keeping that communication, between SGA and yourself and that office, keeping that going and making sure that they know what is being said at SGA meetings?
Right. We've really centralized the meeting times such that everything is happening on Tuesday. Earlier in the day, I will meet with the Dean of Students and personally communicate with her regarding things that she has heard back from administration and things that SGA wants her to communicate to them. At our meeting later that night, I can then convey that information to the Senate, and on Wednesday, the Dean will be speaking with administration. So all of this is happening, one right after the other, so that we're able to respond to things about, weekly in terms of getting that communication settled between myself, the Senate, and the administration.
So if there is something, in that meeting with the Dean of Students, say there's a specific housing issue or something to do with residence life, during that meeting, is that when, say the director of residence life would come in on that meeting and you all would kind of hash things out and talk about what the students are talking about?
Right. If we have a specific issue that involves a department, I'll use security as an example.
Okay.
We will bring that person into our Senate meeting, and we will speak to them as a group.
Okay.
So with regards to the Brenner Library incident, we brought Sam Lathrop into our meeting and had a discussion with him about safety and security on campus. After he had given his presentation and left, we then debated the issue amongst ourselves, and we decided if we were going to make a recommendation on anything. From that specific meeting, we had decided to table our motions until the next meeting, but at those important junctures, if we're going to deal with residence life, if we're going to deal with student engagement, we will bring those people in and we will speak to them personally.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. So another point, during the debate that something that you seemed very passionate about was the parking, and especially the parking on Locust Street. And so if you want to tell us just a little bit about, why you were so passionate about that during the debate, and then if you have any plans moving forward, if there's anything you would like to see change with that, if that's something that you're really seeing as a goal for yourself as SGA president.
Right. There's precious little that we can do in regards to expanding parking lot. We can certainly make recommendations, again, that the school look into this. But whether or not they have the money to do that, or whether they have the willpower to do that, I don't know. But what we are looking at is looking at those no QU student parking signs. The standard language for that sign should read residential parking only. That makes more sense that way. Can a faculty member park there? That's defeating the purpose. In fact, lawyers whom we have talked to have remarked that this language is discriminatory, in fact, and most likely could not hold up in a court of law. We actually have contacts with aldermen and with the administration of Mayor Kyle Moore, who is a QU graduate, in fact, and we will be pursuing changing the language on that sign. The student body has expressed that we don't like the language, we understand the reason behind the signs, but it's quite simply rude to surround a school with signs that say your students cannot park here.
Right. Okay, well, that makes sense. So along with that, are there any other goals that you're really setting for yourself in this first term as SGA president?
Right. So our goal is for this remainder of the school year to get everything situated, to get our Constitution situated, and to start planning for next year. We're working very closely with CAB, which is essentially going to be the events committee of SGA, but still an autonomous body, to make sure we have events planned for next year. You may have noticed suddenly at the end of the year you have all these events piled on top of each other at the same time as you're trying to write your papers, finish your presentations. That's not what we mean by more events. We mean events throughout the year. And so we're already planning and looking forward to the fall semester, to homecoming. We have a big aviation competition held for the first time ever at Quincy University at Baldwin Field.
Okay.
And we're already looking, how can we plan for that? How can we make sure that there are events next year so that when we get back on campus, it's all ready to go?
So when students move back on campus in August, will there be something that, okay, we have these events lined up for this semester, mark your calendars type of deal?
We will make sure that there will be. And that's going to involve things like a calendar that will have all of the events on it. If we can get the app up and running by then, that would certainly be a goal, but I'm not sure if that's going to be ready by then. If we have the texting service ready by then, that's another option. But we want to make sure that we have these events lined up. Students can look at them, put them on the calendar, and say, hey, this is something I'm actually interested in going to. And that's the only way you're going to get people at your events.
So you talked a little bit about, an app. So is that kind of a goal that you're setting for yourselves, is having an app on campus for QU students?
Right, and you'll notice that in the App Store there is a QU app, but it's broken. And without going into too many details, the company that was providing it to us, as far as I understand, wanted more money and we didn't have that to give. So what the Dean of Students has told me is that they are working with a company to get a texting service, and that this company is also going to be looking into the app. If that does not pan out, I'm going to reach out immediately, and in fact I've already talked to computer science students, and they have a class where they create apps.
Okay.
There's no reason why we shouldn't have it when we have resources amongst our students to look into.
Right. So could you maybe talk to us a little bit about what other leadership roles you've had in the past, or maybe some other leadership roles you have on campus that makes you a great fit for this position?
Right. I think I'll just confine myself to some of the things I've done on campus. As soon as I got here, I got wrapped into CEO Club, suddenly got into this crazy haunted house idea. So I've been really involved with them. I've been serving as their vice president and will in fact be president of CEO next year. So that will be an interesting thing going forward. And then also with campus ministry, I've already been trying in that position to get students more involved in spiritual life on campus, the mission trips, the events that we've been hosting. So we've already had a lot of practice with trial and error. When do students want to schedule things? There's a reason why we don't schedule things on Friday afternoons. And that kind of thing I'll be utilizing as we make SGA here to serve the students.
Good. So, we talked a little bit about the fact that you have a Facebook page, email, things like that. What is, the best way to get in contact with you or your SGA representatives if they have a concern?
Right. I think the best way for anything is always to talk to somebody in person. But it really doesn't matter. For me, if you send an email, if you send a text, if you get on Facebook and send those messages, I will find them within 24 hours at least. I'm sure the other senators are the same way. So any way you can get into contact with us or come to our meetings, and if you have a concern, we will always, at the end of that meeting, say, and do we have any concerns from the students that they need to bring forward? Any way you can get the news to us through anyone, through any means, but make sure you're expressing those news. A disengaged student is a student we've already lost.
Right. Well, thank you for coming down today, Gino. Is there anything else you would like to add that we didn't get to talk about?
I'd just like to say, as we're moving forward, just kind of be thinking, what do you want this campus to look like? And then come to us and see how we can make that work. The era of the unengaged student and the era of you want to do something but you're hearing no is over. That's not going to happen anymore.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you for coming down and taking some time out of your day.
Yeah, thank you, Derek.
Coming up after the break, we'll show you the latest events and activities happening on campus. Stay with us.
Yes. Growing up, I had one deaf friend, and that was the only deaf person I knew before coming to school here at QU. And now I regularly get to hang out and socialize with the deaf community, which has been awesome. Sign language isn't exactly like learning another spoken language because you use your body, facial expressions, your hands are your instruments. So it is definitely learning a new language. It has its own grammar and syntax and everything. It's not exactly like English like a lot of people think it is.
QUTV is more than a news outlet.
1 in 5 undergrads work at least 35 hours a week, year-round.
Students involved with QUTV learn life lessons, create lasting memories, and gain the experience needed to succeed in future careers.
Students need to be involved with QUTV as a viewer or as a participant because we need to know what's going on around our campus.
Knowledge is powerful, and QUTV News serves to inform not only the students, but the Quincy University community as a reliable and powerful news network.
Here's a look at what's happening next week on Q. This Friday, the QU men's baseball team plays a doubleheader versus Drury University at QU Stadium starting at noon. The women's softball team also plays a doubleheader at home versus Rockhurst University. Coming up on the 22nd of April is Jazz Night in the Hawk's Nest at 7 p.m. Thanks for joining us for this week on Q. Make sure to tune in next week when Dr. Gervasi will be joining us to reflect on his years at Quincy University. If you haven't already, like us on Facebook to see the latest from QU Media and tune in to Channel 97 on campus for the latest on Q. For this week on Q, I'm Darek Lambert, and we will see you next week, Hawks.